talked about Oplan Cronus 1 and Cronus 2. Is that right?
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, we only have one case operation plan, that is Cronus, but we have one particular operation plan or implementing plan for co-plan Cronus, Your Honor.
So it's Cronus.
Cronus, Your Honor.
And if I may, those that were involved in the planning were, if you could repeat, please.
Your Honor, Cronus is purely exclusively a CIDG case operation plan. But in addition to that, we have a joint LOI that was crafted by an interagency committee, sort of a committee composed of the National Bureau of Investigation, Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, ISAF, and the Philippine National Police, Your Honor, and the Department of Justice, Your Honor.
Thank you. You mentioned the LOI. And if I may recall, this was supposed to be signed by the secretaries of both the Department of Justice and the DILG.
Yes, Your Honor.
And was this ever signed?
It was never signed, Your Honor.
So would you say this was never implemented?
Your Honor, Cronus is exclusively a case operation plan and O plan of the CIDG. The LOI was crafted, but it was never implemented. The operation plan for Cronus was also not implemented, Your Honor.
Both Cronus and the LOI were never implemented?
Yes, Your Honor.
So would you say that because of its non-implementation, would you consider Cronus a failure or a success?
Your Honor, since it was not, it was a failure, Your Honor.
So why would you say that since it was never implemented and yet there was a raid that was conducted December 15th of 2014, who then were those that actually conducted the raid? Was the CIDG involved?
Your Honor, the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, except for its K9 unit, and the CIDG were no longer involved in the December raid, Your Honor. Only the Department of Justice, the National Bureau of Investigation, select units of the Philippine National Police, Your Honor.
Were General Bucayo and General Villasanta also involved in the raid?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the NCRPO?
Yes, Your Honor. And General Garbo, Your Honor.
And General Garbo. Could you perhaps enlighten this representation on the participation of General Garbo and why he was part of the raid?
Your Honor, we are no longer privy on the particular of General Garbo, but considering the fact that he was then the Deputy Chief PNP for Operations, then probably he was tasked to supervise the activities of the PNP that were involved in the raid, Your Honor.
You are now the Deputy Chief, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
And would you say, as the Deputy Chief for Operations, on such an operation as this, you should be involved?
Yes, Your Honor. That's part of my mandate, Your Honor.
Well then, since the PIDEA, and I shall now direct the question to PIDEA, you entered into a memorandum of agreement with the Bucor, and in that memorandum of agreement, your participation was, as you pointed out, limited to investigation or intelligence on work on employees of Bucor and when requested, assist the Bucor in its anti-drug operations. Is it right?
Kindly
Yes, Your
wrap
Honor.
up your last question, Your Honor.
And during all this time, under the terms of the MOA, prior to the new administration, your participation was limited purely to the lending of canine dogs.
That is correct, Your Honor.
And you say under this new administration, you are now involved in anti-drug operations inside the Bucor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Has the memorandum of agreement been revised?
No, Your Honor.
Do you think that there is a need to revise the terms of your MOA, seeing as you are actually limited in the anti-drug operations inside the Bucor, if you strictly adhere to the terms of the MOA?
That will be your last question, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
The Honorable Crisologo is a member of the Rules Committee. He will have to rush up to the plenary. May we give the next chance to Honorable Crisologo. Go ahead, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to clear up a few questions. With General Magalong, I listened to your testimony that several times you wanted to raid the national new BILIBID prisons. Am I right, General?
I propose that was my
Yes,
proposal,
several times you
Your
met
Honor.
with the Secretary,
Chair.
former Secretary of Justice. And finally, they raided it, but it was without you and the PDEA. Am I right?
Yes, Your Honor, without the CIDG, but with PNP elements.
My
Your Honor.
question now is, my first question is, what happened to, what was the result of that raid when they raided without you? Were there any positive results?
Yes, sir. There were many contrabands, cash that were confiscated.
Without you?
Yes, Your Honor. It was still a very successful raid, Your
Oh,
Honor.
so bakit sabi mo kanina parang sumama ang loob nyo na hindi kayo sinama?
Your Honor, if you were involved in the original plan, you made that proposal, at hindi po kayo sinama, siyempre mo, masasaktan po kayo. Bakit hindi kami naisama? Wala ba silang tiwala? At yung mga pinag-usapan na plano, like for example, yung isolation, bakit hindi lahat na-isolate? Bakit naiwan yung iba?
So why do you think they did not involve you and the PDEA?
Your Honor, Mr. Chair, I would refrain from speculating. I would rather base my
From your
statement on
opinion,
facts and
from your
supported
personal
evidence.
opinion.
No, Your Honor.
You did not know. Thank you very much. Well, I would like to address this to the Bureau of Prisons. Is our head of the MVP here? Wala.
They attended the budget hearing
Budget hearing.
for
ngayon.
DOJ.
Do they have a representative in the MVP here? Mr. Secretary was wondering, as I said yesterday, I was a graduate also of the new BILIBID prisons. I stayed there for 8 years and 6 months. Before, it was a privilege for us prisoners to be brought from the maximum to the medium. Kasi I was wondering why from the testimonies of the prisoners, parang mas gusto nilang mapunta sa maximum galing sa medium. So what is there in the maximum?
Andun daw po yung Las Vegas of the MVP. Andun ang lahat ng mga bisyo, lahat ng everything is there. That is the that's why I was also wondering why they wanted, those from the medium wanted to be transferred to the maximum.
Yeah.
Yung palang dahilan.
Kasi po, it was a privilege before it was a privilege before coming from maximum, you are transferred to the medium. before. And of course, as I said a while ago, I heard one of the prisoners na confined there na dapat ang i-reform raw ang DOJ. Hindi naman. Maganda naman ang programa ng DOJ. May na-reform naman silang mga prisoners. Now, I'm a congressman. I came there for 8. So I think it depends upon the person, no? And the person, his background, and of course, the way the DOJ will treat them. Finally, my last question, Mr. Chairman, is, Mr. Secretary, do we have a law which will disqualify a candidate or a sitting official, whether elected or if he is involved in drug or he uses drug money for his politics? Do we have a law?
Yes, Your Honor. As, Mr. Chair, if you are perpetually disqualified from holding public office.
Well, may I know what law that is?
9165, Section 5, Section 28 provides such disqualification.
Not only for elected, but even for appointed.
That's right.
Because there are many
Mr. Tang.
appointed officials involved, and I think there are also some involved in this scam, the new BILIBID prisons. And as you said earlier, it will go even higher, no, than the former Secretary of Justice. So, may I know the plans of the Secretary if they plan to disqualify with this evidence, if they plan to file a case against Senator De Lima?
It is.
Because there is so much
we are
evidence now.
We have first to file case. As a consequence, if they are
Yes.
convicted, then that would be as a consequence of conviction.
So
The
the
disqualification
case will-
from holding public office.
The case will be filed in Sandigan Bayan.
Ombudsman or before the DOJ.
And the Sandigan
the case,
Bayan.
if there
But
is
it will be the Sandigan Bayan who will have jurisdiction.
who
Am
will
I right?
decide, who will-
And the Sandigan Bayan can order a suspension.
immediate suspension once filed.
Thank you,
for 6
Your
months.
Honor.
So that I was just wondering, do you have plans to file a disqualification case?
Your Honor, Mr. Chair, what we are going to do is to file a case for criminal case for violation of the Drugs Act. It will be filed before the Ombudsman.
Yes.
And after the preliminary investigation, it will be filed before the Sandigan Bayan. And if they are convicted, they could immediately be suspended upon filing.
But-
And during trial, after the conviction, there will be such disqualification. The decision of the Sandigan Bayan will provide disqualification
So
for...
it's not a separate case. Criminal case and the disqualification case will not be a separate case.
Hindi po.
So mauuna yung talaga yung criminal case.
Opo, or administrative case. If you file a case before the Sandigan Bayan, usually twin case yan eh. One is for criminal case and one is for administrative case.
Thank you very much. Mr. Secretary, Mr.
Maraming
Chairman, salamat po for accommodating.
Thank you. Next is,
Mr. Chairman, before we call, I just want a rejoinder. No, I question that would rejoin Congressman Crisologo to complete the information given by the Secretary of Justice. May I be allowed one, Mr. Chairman?
1 minute is only 60 seconds, Your
Yes.
Honor.
Except,
Okay, go ahead.
not including the answer, of course. Secretary Aguirre, you said that administrative case and criminal case may simultaneously be prosecuted in the Sandigan Bayan. The question is, in the administrative case,
Your
be
Honor.
ahead.
That's usually the case, Mr. Congressman.
And therefore, even before conviction in the criminal case, anyone who is charged criminally may already be disqualified.
That's correct, Mr. Congressman.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
For the information of the body, I would just like to reconcile what the Honorable Congressman said, as well as the reply of the DOJ Secretary. when an ombudsman complaint is filed, there are two docket numbers. One is C, another is C refers to the criminal case, A is the administrative case. Ombudsman on the criminal case goes to the Sandigan Bayan. The resolution of the ombudsman on the administrative case, Court of Appeals. So they are two separate matters. In fact, one of the things that we will have to discuss in relation to the problems we have in regard to two colleagues that have been suspended by the Sandigan Bayan. But that is altogether a different matter, and I don't like that that would delay our deliberation here. May I now go to Congressman Alejano?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, sa ating mga resource persons and to my colleagues, magandang hapon po. Just manifestation first, Mr. Chairman, I hope hindi mabawas po sa aking time. Because it was mentioned that the minority spoke before the media, and as a result, sort of destroying the credibility of this committee. I just would like to clarify, Mr. Chair, that this representation, this institution, and I wanted this institution to be credible. Because whatever happens to this institution, it will reflect also to my name. Now, I mentioned about the process undertaken yesterday on the way the witnesses were cross-examined. Ngayon po, ayaw po na parang entablado lang po ito at nanonood po tayo ng isang moro-moro. Kaya nga po, I would like to thank the committee for revising the procedure so that makita naman po may fairness ang procedure na po ito. And secondly, hindi po ako absent dahil nag-aating po ako ng it just so happened that I have meetings in my office, but in my office I am watching the proceedings. So hindi po na hindi ako nag-attend. Actually, kahapon mo almost gabi na po bago matapos ay nandun po ako. Rest assured, Mr. Chair, that we all wanted the truth to come out in these proceedings, and I wanted to be part of that finding for the truth, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you now proceed to your question?
Mr. Chairman, Congressman Alejano was taken the cudgels for the minority, independent minority. Now, being Deputy Speaker, may I now be allowed to take the cudgels for the majority?
1 minute, Your Honor. You can take the floor, but please limit it to 1 hour because this is already a separate matter. The chair himself has a lot of things to explain, but this will only delay our deliberation here. We discussed that in the plenary.
Because otherwise, Mr. Chairman, there would be no balance of information why the proceeding proceeded yesterday as it was.
Well, for the information of everybody, first, let me emphasize that it's not a judicial proceeding. Let me point out that the arguments of whoever had himself interviewed by media are irrelevant to what we are doing here. For example, they were saying that why is it that the DOJ secretary was representing via direct examination the witnesses. I would like to point out that under Rule 128, Section 1, because we are talking about facts, we are talking about evidence. Section 1, Article 1, Rule 128 of the Rules of Court says, evidence is the means shown by these rules, meaning the rules of court, of ascertaining in a judicial proceeding the truth respecting a matter of fact, period. It applies only to judicial proceedings. What we have here is not a judicial proceeding. The rules of court can apply to administrative proceedings because Section 5 3 of the Rules of Court speaks of substantial evidence rule. But this is not also a quasi-judicial proceeding. We are not here to hear and decide a case. We are not here to entertain facts, evidence, to convict, to adjudicate. We are here only to listen to resource persons in relation to Resolution 105, which limits itself only to proliferation of drugs within NBP and the accountability of public officials who have been tasked to see to it that NBP is well managed. Now, I will repeat, what we have here is a proceeding in aid of legislation. We can, via our imagination, craft up legislation. We can, through hearsay, through even the word of Satan, pick up a lot of facts and come up with legislation. But we are listening to authorities here, to resource persons here, who in our mind can help us craft the right legislation that would address the problems we have at NBP. I wish that this is raised at the plenary by whoever had himself interviewed by media. So we answer him. I can even ask questions. For example, one good thing that happened yesterday, despite the fact that they are criticizing the procedure we had, one good thing is we saw video. We saw J.B. Sebastian. I cannot say I am one of the good lawyers around, but give me just few minutes, I can pin down Sebastian. His responsibility, I can even connect him to whoever masterminded the operations at NBP. But again, I hope we will reserve whatever we have in mind to things we should better and rather discuss at the plenary. Can we proceed now, Your Honor, to Honorable Rocamora?
Mr. Chair, I'm not yet done. It was just a manifestation.
I'm sorry.
I understand, Mr. Of your, I am not a lawyer, and I understand your explanation, and it was based on my opinion, because not all of the people understand the legal procedures here in the House. So people are watching over the TV, and they are not aware of our own procedures here. Why? That is my own opinion, and as far as I respect the opinion of other members of this committee, I hope that you will respect my opinion as well.
May I request now, Your Honor, that you proceed to your first question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My first question to the DOJ Secretary or the NBP. Meron po ba tayong visitation log sa NBP and CCTV recordings, Mr. Secretary?
Mr. Chair, opo, meron tayong CCTV and visitors log.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I would like to request all the visitation logs and CCTV recordings of all the visits of then Secretary Laila de Lima, because it was mentioned in the affidavit of, I think, one or two witnesses that Secretary de Lima went inside the Cobol and they were left there for some hours to talk or whatever they have done there. So it might as well be informative for us that such records so that we can see for ourselves, Mr. Secretary.
Opo, ang problema lamang po dyan ay pag si Secretary de Lima hindi naglalag, yun ang sinasabi sa amin. Dire-diretso na lang yan kung saan gusto niyang pumunta.
Well, kahit hindi po siya maglag, dapat nilalag po yan ng ating authorities. Kung hindi yan ilalag ng ating gwardiya, kulang po ating lag, no?
Kaya nga po, sapagkat hindi na ilag, so talagang masama ang administrasyon ng kapanahonang yun.
How about the CCTV recordings, Mr. Secretary?
Hindi ko lang po kung Kasi usually ang CCTV, mga 2 buwan lang ang tinatagal ng kanilang mga plate. But we have already requested the OIC Bureau Director. But until now, wala po siyang naibibigay sa amin.
Thank you for that, Mr. Secretary. I hope makakuha po tayo para makatulong po sa pag-file ng kaso. My second question is about the drug NBP. Gaano pa na po ito katagal ang itong drug trade sa loob ng NBP?
Doon po, ayon po sa mga resource persons natin, witnesses, noong mga 2010 papuntang 2011, hindi pa masyadong marami. Talagang medyo mahigpit, bawal talaga. But noong mga 2012 na, nung magsimulang mangolekta si JB Sebastian, sapagkat noong 2012 ay sinasabi nila na gusto ng kumandidato ni Secretary de Lima sa 2013, nag-umpisa na po silang mangolekta para sa pondo ng kanyang kandidatura. Ayan po, ang sabi nila dyan, ng mga testigo natin, naging 3 doble ang kalakalan ng droga nitong mga 2014-2015 na.
May I ask General Magalong, sir, kung sa inyong information, kailan po nagsimula ang trade sa loob?
Your Honor, Mr. Chair, with all due respect to the Secretary of the Department of Justice, based on the information that we have gathered as a result of our operational research, the drug trade in the NBP started as early as 2000, around. Especially, it flourished when Peter Ko, his real name is actually Yuan, Wu Tuan Yuan, arrived in sometime in 2002, Your Honor.
Thank you, General Magalong. I asked that question because mas maganda po meron tayong history ng BILIBID, no? Because when I was undertaken intelligence course in the armed forces in 1998, 1999, I have my colleague who has a target inside in BP related to drugs. So, na-mention ko lang po yan, no? My next question, Mr. Secretary, ano pong major source ng drugs na ito? Dahil alam mo natin may Chinese drug lord sa loob, ano po yung major source ng drugs?
Unang-una po yung doon sa sagot, pwede po bang mag-comment doon. Ang pinagbasehan ko lamang po noong 2010, 20 pa. Yun po yung ang premise po noon ay yung ayon sa mga resource persons natin na ipinesenta kahapon at ngayon. Pero yung pong kay sinabi ni General Magalong, ganun po pala katagal na yan, so mahigit na ng 10 taon before 2010. Ngayon po, going back to the question of the Honorable, ang sa pagtatanong ko po ng mga resource persons ko rin po, tinanong ko po si Director Vinarao na 2 beses maging Bureau Director, ni-appoint. I conferred also with General Bucayo. Ang marami dito yung mga nagsasabi sa akin na hindi naman mga personality sa Bucor. But ang sinasabi dyan ay yung mga talagang sources ng drugs natin ay nanggagaling sa China, either it's imported or manufactured sa high seas ng mga Chinese ships, mga Chinese ports po yan. Kaya't makikita natin siguro mga 2 months, wala pang 2 months, nakita natin na nahuli yung mga Chinese na nagluluto dyan sa barko dito ng mga Bureau of Immigration. Yung po mga Chinese na yun ay hindi po nanggaling ng China at saka hindi high seas yun. Dito lamang po ang immigration records, yung pong 4 na Chinese na nagluluto ng shabu dun sa barko dito sa Pilipinas, ay yung po ay galing Hong Kong at pagdating nila rito saka lang sila nagluluto. So napakarami po ng pwedeng panggalingan, pero ang nagkakaisa po ang lahat na ang karamihan niyan ay galing sa imported from the China mainland and manufactured sa high seas.
Will you please wrap up your last question, Your Honor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that information, because even from PDEA and DDB, they said that the major source of drugs is from China.